Okay, so for AZ800, let's complete the installation of Hyper-V and let's take a look at the beginnings of installing Server 2025. So, in the last video, we started with the installation of Hyper-V, but it required a reboot. So if you remember from the last video, we took a look at the existing NICs, Network Interface Cards, NICS, and you'll notice there's a new one here. My virtual Ethernet. Okay, my virtual Ethernet gets assigned or created by Hyper-V based on the existing connections I might have. So I have Wi-Fi on this laptop. I do not have an Ethernet connection, which is why you only see one virtual Ethernet adapter. It's connected to the default switch. We'll talk about networking in Hyper-V a little bit later. Okay, so Hyper-V, once it gets installed and you reboot, Hyper-V Manager shows up, and you can do a search on your computer. Just start typing Hyper, and it'll show up. I generally will always pin this to the taskbar, meaning even once I close the window, right, the shortcut remains. That way I don't have to keep looking for it every time. So when you click the shortcut, up here in the top left corner, you'll see, what I affectionately call the Hyper-V Mangler. And beneath it, this is the name of the physical host. So you'll hear terms like host or physical host. They mean the same thing. You'll hear the terms VMs or virtual machines. You may even hear the terms nested virtual machines, which are virtual machines that we build. And inside those virtual machines, we install Hyper-V and then install additional virtual machines. So it's a virtual machine running inside a virtual machine, a nested VM. So pretty simple. Okay. It can get complex, but what we're doing here is pretty simple. So in the last video, I also downloaded the Windows Server 2025 Eval Edition, which I have renamed because the naming convention of Microsoft files, it leaves a little bit to be desired. Okay, so you can see I've got an ISO file, which is a disk image or DVD image. The ISO is an acronym that stands for something, but nobody cares what it stands for. So you can see it's almost 6 gigabytes in size. So in Hyper-V Mangler, we're going to come over here. We're going to make sure that Kelly HP is selected, or whatever the name of your computer is. We'll right click, and once you've done this a few times, you can choose Quick Create. I don't. I want full control over my VM creation, so I will choose New Virtual Machine. And this will take a second because my computer only has 16 gigs of memory, which, as I said in the last video, is the absolute minimum I would even consider installing Hyper-V on. Now, you can choose to not show the introductory page again. Okay, again, after you've done this a few times, you don't need to see it. Okay, but I'll leave it enabled. I'll choose Next. What do I want to call my VM? Okay, pick a convention and stick with it. Okay, I am fond of WinSRV and then, right, the operating system version. And then generally, right, if I'm going to have multiples, I'll do 01, 02. If I'm going to set up Active Directory, I might have DC1 or DC2. I might have a file server out here, or something like that. If I'm installing Windows Workstation, Windows 11, and, this might be PC01 or something like that, right? Pick a convention and stick to the convention because it makes it easier for you 6 months from now when you're troubleshooting. Okay, Windows SRV 25, and we're just going to do 01. Okay, now you know what? Let's see. Are we going to do Active Directory on this one? Sure, why not? Let's make it DC 01. Okay, so we'll choose Next. Generation 2 must be selected for Server 25, 22. I believe you can use Gen 1 for Server 2019 and older because it doesn't require the TPM, the Trusted Platform module. It doesn't require secure boot and things like that. So we'll choose Gen 2. We'll click Next. How much memory do you want? How much memory does Windows Server 2025 require? You did look that up, right? You're not just, following the directions where I'm telling you choose this, choose that, choose the other. You're going to need to know how to answer these questions. This physical host has 16 gigs of memory. So I'll start with 4 gigs, 4096. Remember, 1024 is 1 gig, right? Not 1000. So 4096 is okay. I will use dynamic memory, but we will have to limit it, and I'll show you that here shortly. We'll choose next. Do I want to connect it to? And this is where networking comes into play. Right now, I only have one switch, okay, my default switch. Later on, you can set up switches for things like your test network, your production network, and things like that. Okay. This will connect through my Wi-Fi adapter, by the way, because it's the only NIC I have on this machine. So we'll choose next. I will create a virtual hard disk because I don't have a VHD or VHDX file. Okay, virtual hard disk or the extended virtual hard disks. But I'm not going to put it here. I will come on out here and I'll go to the root of C and I will Control Shift and the letter N as in November. And I'll create a folder called VMs, and inside that Control Shift and November, Win SRV25 DC01. If you're on a machine where you have multiple virtual hard drives, you're going to want some kind of organization. There would be checkpoints that the Hyper-V takes, which will extend and create additional files, things like that. And if you don't have a clear filing mechanism, finding files when it's time to troubleshoot can be problematic. So I'm going to store my VHDX file in this location. Well, how much free drive space do I have? Well, let's find out. Go to this PC and you'll see, okay, this machine is not meant to store lots of stuff. Okay, it's just meant for me to make videos like this and, edit Word documents like that. But it's not meant to store terabytes of data. Okay, sorry, I saw that icon flash and it made me concerned there for a second. So if I choose the default, which is 127 gigs, that's gonna, right? I've got 172 free. So no, this is a test machine. I think we can get away with, let's do 60. I might be pushing the envelope here, but if you're curious, get out on Google and do Windows Server 2025 minimum requirements and see what it tells you. Okay, we'll choose next. I can choose to install an OS later, or I can install one now from an image. I downloaded an ISO file, which will be in the downloads folder. Okay, and this will mount a virtual DVD drive. And we'll finish. This will configure everything. It can take 10 seconds. It can take 10 minutes. Okay, so here is my first virtual machine. Yay, I'm done. No, you're not nearly done. Okay, I will right-click on this because the status is off. I can make some changes to this. So I will right-click and then left-click on Settings. How many cores does my machine have? Well, system information will tell you that. I believe I have only 4. Again, this is not a Lamborghini. Okay, 8 logical processors, 4 cores. Okay. The reason this is important is I can under provision. I can over provision. Okay. You have to be careful that you're not taxing your physical host too much. So because this is a test machine and I don't care whether the server runs like a cheetah or not, I'll choose 2. I'm going to come in here to the amount of memory. Now, if you remember, I enabled dynamic memory, and all that means is if I need less than 4 gigs, I can go all the way down to 512 megs. If I need more than 4 gigs, the machine will automatically grab up to 1 terabyte. I don't have a terabyte of memory on this thing. I have 16 gigs. The more memory my virtual machine takes, the less memory my physical host has. This is a balancing act, right? 8192, 8 gigabytes. If you're ever unsure, right, take the number of gigs you're trying to assign and multiply it by 1024. Okay, you'll come to memorize these numbers, especially those of you who are in programming majors. Okay, this is an exact 8 gigs. So I'm going to start with 4. I can decrease. The manager does this for me. I don't have to do anything. Memory buffer, just don't. Okay. If you over provision this, you're going to crash your physical host, which will have the effect of crashing your virtual machine. If you under provision this, I don't care how much horsepower your physical host has, your VM will run like I do, which is to say slow, plodding, and limping along. Okay, just leave it be. Memory weight is fine right in the middle. Okay. There's not really anything else in here I want to check. Oh yes, I'm sorry, there is. I want to be able to allow copy and paste between my physical host and my virtual machine. And I need guest services enabled to do that. Okay, so I will always check that. I'm going to leave checkpoints as they are for right now. Checkpoints, they're good, they're bad, and they're ugly. Okay, checkpoints, I'm going to install Windows updates, for example. A snapshot or checkpoint will be made of the virtual disk before the installation starts, just in case. Then I can roll back, right? If the updates crash the virtual machine, I can roll back to a previous checkpoint. However, what checkpoints do is they hog additional disk space. And if you're not careful, they'll use your entire physical hard disk. If that happens, it's going to crash your physical host, which will have the effect of crashing your virtual machine. So some people will just do that. The downside to this is if Windows Updates crashes my virtual machine, I don't have anything to roll back to. But this is a test machine. Who cares? I'm going to disable checkpoints. Yeah, you know what? No, I will turn them on. And then I'll show you what that looks like. And then later I'll merge the checkpoint disk into the physical disk. And then I'll disable them later. Okay. Not really anything else in here I want to muck about with. I mean, unless you want to, always start the VM automatically. I don't recommend that. Only because every time you reboot your physical host, the VM will start. If this were a production machine, I would of course do this. If I had multiple VMs, I would stagger them, right? So I've got 4 virtual machines on here. I want to start all 4 of them every time my host reboots, but start one, wait 10 seconds, start the second one, wait 10 seconds, start the third one. Okay. So I'm going to leave it at its default. I'm going to leave that at its default. And I'm going to hit OK. If I hit apply, it will save the changes I made, but this window stays open. If I hit OK, it will save the changes I made and this window closes. Okay. So now I always do the same thing. I'm going to right click. I'm going to choose connect. And I'll click the start button from here. Now this is the first installation of Windows Server 25, so it may say press any key to boot from CD or DVD up here, or it may just automatically boot from DVD. There we go. So the trick there is you've got to click inside this window as soon as that message comes up and just spam the space bar. And there we go. So because I am on a machine where the screen resolution is not the greatest, I'm going to have to scroll up and down, but that's okay. Okay, next, United States. I want to install Windows. I agree everything will be deleted. Now, the repair option is helpful. If an update has buggered something up, it'll go out to the website, the Microsoft site. It will look for system files on your machine that have been corrupted. It will download the updated system files from the Microsoft site, and hopefully it will overwrite the corrupted ones. Okay. You've got to choose desktop experience if you are going to want the Windows Server GUI, the graphical user interface. If you choose the ones without desktop experience, it just installs Server Core, where it's just the command line. And you'll have to do most of your server management from a workstation that has the RSAT tools, the remote server admin tools installed. I'm going to choose Data Center Eval, desktop experience. Now, in a production environment, I prefer Core. because the core, because it provides fewer graphical services, means the attack surface on my servers is lower. There aren't as many open ports. There aren't as many potential hacks. The amount of memory this thing is using will be decreased. But because I don't have a workstation set up to manage it yet, and this is a dummy test, I'm just going to choose that, and we'll go next. Now this will take a little while, right? We'll accept that. Once the installation starts, I'll pause the video and we'll come back. Okay, unallocated space, I can load drivers if I have an external disk. I can create partitions if I want. I'm just going to let it use the entire disk. And we're going to install, and then I will pause the video and we will be back. Okay, so you can see it's taken 7 minutes and 18 seconds to get to this point. So I'll pause the stopwatch while I'm talking doing this, but I'll restart the stopwatch and pause the video again, once we get past this point. So we're going to set a password. And then we have to scroll down to the bottom of both. Oh, goodness. Am I going to be allowed to scroll to the bottom? It doesn't look like it. There we go. Finish. Oh, that was quick. I thought it was going to reboot a few more times. Okay, so I'm going to set this to a very small resolution. Generally, I would set it to 1440 by 900. If I were working on my production laptop, that screen size fits nicely. But let's do Windows. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm not sure how much the screen recorder had paused itself. I'm not sure how much of that you missed. So while it's loading up, excuse me, it took about 7 minutes and 18 seconds for the Windows installation to finish. Then I had to log in. I had to set a password. I'll show you what the password is then. And this is me signing in for the first time. Okay, so this takes a minute because it has to build my excuse me, user profile. Excuse me 1 second. Okay, so some people will balk at balk at how do Microsoft to track it? Yeah. You carry a cell phone in your pocket 24 hours a day. Of course you're being tracked. My rule of thumb here is if I have to look at an error message, I want Microsoft to look at it. I don't know that they're doing anything with it, but if I have to see it, I want them to see it. I want to include all the telemetry data about Windows every time it crashes, my usage patterns, things like that. Okay, I'm not doing anything untowards on this VM, so I couldn't care less that they're tracking all of it. So we'll accept that. And bang, we're in. Okay, so that was the crux of this video, which was to get the installation of Hyper-V finished and to get Windows Server 2025 installed. In the next video, we'll talk about Server Mangler, as I affectionately call it, and then we'll talk about adding roles and features. All right, thank you for your attention. I will see you all in the next one.